All right. I'm going to go ahead and open the meeting. This is the Select Board meeting here at the training room in the Public Safety Complex. Today's date is Monday, June 12th, 2023, and it is 7 p.m. So I'm calling the meeting to order. First on the agenda, we have our consent items. There are 5 of them, and as per usual, I will read them out. Number 1 is to approve the meeting minutes from the executive session held on May 22nd, 2023. Number 2 is to approve the meeting minutes from the executive session held on May 31st, 2023. Number 3 is to approve the meeting minutes from the regular meeting held on June 5th, 2023. Number 4 is to approve the annual appointments for FY24. And number 5 is to sign the road stabilization letter for FY24 to approve the amount of $118,870. Are there any objections? Would anybody like any of the consent items moved to later in the agenda?
The annual appointments, please.
I'm with you there. Okay, so we'll move that down to new business. Kirk, anything else? No other objections? Hearing none, all of the other items. So the annual appointments was number 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 5 are approved. And we'll sign that letter after the meeting. Okay, so number 1 under new business is to approve year-end transfers as needed. There are 2 of them. We have a transfer from library purchase services. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the old minutes. Bear with me.
It's easy to, I mean,
Yep.
scrolling down. I see what you did.
Yep. Okay, so there's 5 actually. And we're transferring out of health insurance premiums the amount of $16,321 to snow removal purchase services. And then from health insurance premiums in the amount of $20,314.95 to snow removal salt and sand. $8,227.14 from health insurance premiums to snow removal equipment. $1,227.88 from snow removal overtime to snow removal equipment. And then $1,173.34 from health insurance premiums to MIS. So obviously some of this is for snow and ice deficit.
Yeah, so the first 4 all for snow and ice deficit. You'll see the third one down, the snow removal overtime. We did have a little bit left in that balance, so we're just trying to wipe that out and zero it out.
Okay.
Health insurance premiums, we had a significant balance as we approached the end of the year. So we had funds to take from there. The last one, just want to explain for a little bit. So municipal information system, so that's our IT line. So the only reason we have to transfer that is when we did the grant for Maya this year for the Sophos, what was it? The cyber phishing, thank you, Donna. The phishing piece, it was about $2,000 that we had to pay up front. It's a reimbursable grant. They do not anticipate that we'll have the reimbursement check before June 30th.
Okay.
So we would have been fine with that coming back to pay that last piece for the $1,173.34, but for the reimbursement check not planning to be in by May 30th. Or June 30th. Thank you, Donna.
They used to pay them direct. You sent the invoice to them.
So we tried that with that one. That one came from Garrett, Rabadoo Consulting, because we purchased it through that. And then we also tried to do the same thing for the chainsaw equipment and so forth, but for whatever reason it didn't take, and they kept having more concerns or issues. I think a lot of it was just how the billing was, right? So for the Rabadoo Consulting, they had added it onto the regular monthly bill, so it was one item amongst all those pieces. And I think that threw them for a loop. And the same thing with the chainsaw stuff. They approved us for 50% of what they needed, so they still bought 100%, so I think it made it wonky.
Okay. So hearing that description, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so those transfers are approved. All right, next on the agenda, I have the MOU for recreation and water for the DPW director's contract, and we just need to vote to sign these, correct?
Do you want an explanation on what they are?
Sure, go ahead, yeah.
So this year, when we were putting together the DPW's contract, there was a question of making sure that the funds that were going to be coming from the water department as well as the recreation department were under the authorization and knowledge of those two different boards, that this was for a 3-year contract and would continue for the next 2 years so that we could solidify everything into the actual language of the DPW director's contract. That being the case, we did a MOU for both the Board of Water Commissioners as well as the Recreation Department to, memorialize those amounts. So it's a commitment between those boards and the Select Board that that's what's going to be happening. We did send both of these MOUs over to Brian Folk at Legal to make sure that he had no objections.
Okay, very good. Looks like these have already been signed by the other committees, both Recreation and the Water Commissioners, so they are on board.
One note, Julia,
Yep.
so just so everyone knows, I don't know if you see the little ad, they just wanted to point out that on the rec one, they wanted to be clear that it is for the term as long as Travis is the DPW director over the next 3 years. If there's a different director, they'd want to look at renegotiating that number.
Okay,
So they specifically put, you can see in big bold, Travis's name right there,
yeah,
so.
I'll make a motion to sign.
okay.
Second?
And we're signing both of them?
Yes.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, next is an update on DCR and our plot of land for the DPW building. It's an update from Weston and Sampson. And Heather, you had met with them.
Yes. So I was able to meet with Wes and Sampson and Travis last week. After doing so, I actually asked Wes and Sampson to put together a little memo to kind of explain what their interpretation was of DCR's advisory opinion. So as those who might be following along at home, a couple months ago, we had asked DCR to opine, provide a determination, advisory determination of applicability as to the WPA as pertains to the property that we currently have the DPW on, to see about creating a future site or building on that, a new building. They did opine. You'll see that is attached to this. All of this information was also on the website, so if anyone wants to take a look at this, they can see it. There were a couple questions that came up when we sat down with Wes and Sampson for clarification purposes. They are following up with DCR, so we expect to have some further answers, but we need some better clarification. So the first piece has to do with septic, and I don't know if this is in their order, but it's in the order of my brain. So the first has to do with septic, right? We want to make sure we can build a septic that close in the buffer zone. So they had provided a response, but the response talked about high water tables and so forth. So we want some clarification as to what that is. The second piece they talk about is storage of fuels, right? So diesel and gas. Wes and Sampson had an interpretation of what they thought was acceptable based on the reading, but again, they're going back to make sure that's all on the same page. And the third, the one that's probably the most important to make sure that everyone is on the same page, when Wes and Sampson had submitted the application to DCR, they had very specifically talked about the entire plot of land that is owned, the entire lot, which goes around the reservoir and encompasses the land around that. So what they talk about in the DCR opinion is that you can't exceed 25% of ground that is, what's the word?
Impervious.
Thank you. An impervious surface. You can't increase that by more than 25%. The question becomes, is that 25% on the entire plot, right? The entire lot of land? Or is it just on the current footprint? So Wes and Sampson believes that it's likely the entire lot because they clarified it a number of times and specified it when they actually put the application. DCR does not specify which they're referencing in their decision. Because this is such an important decision, because if we rely on this, we want to make sure that, we get 2 years down the road, we have feasibility study, we have a design, we're about to build, we submit for applications for permit, we don't want someone else to take over and say, no, I interpret that different. So we're asking DCR for further clarification as to what they're referencing, whether they're actually referencing the entire lot of land or if they're referencing just the current footprint. So those are the major takeaway pieces, and I think the importance of this is once we have those responses to those major takeaway pieces, it will come obviously back to the board also to update the public, but at that point, I think it would be good if the board would give further direction to the DPW Building Committee as to what you guys would like to see next, what direction you'd like them to go and so forth. But this was, as everyone knows, currently the holdup, because we wanted to make sure we had clear ceiling on this before we proceeded. Any questions for me?
No, I think I'm reading this as frankly good news because it's not an outright no.
That's how I took it, and I read the
Yep.
whole thing twice,
Yep.
but there is some areas of question.
Yep,
So I
it
think
should-
it's really good that we just clear the air and make sure that we're 100% positive that we're not going to get shut down,
Midway.
4 years in the project.
I know we were aware of some areas, some buffer areas that couldn't be
Right.
moved into, and then there was some that could, but with restrictions. But so we were aware of that. But I suppose it's good to have all this in writing.
Simple question: have those areas of buffer zone, impervious zone, this, that, and that, have they been staked and flagged, or?
I don't believe so. I
I
don't,
don't
think they got
think
that
so.
far. No.
Okay. So we haven't done a complete survey of.
We
Well, we've done a survey, but not a complete survey.
we did a preliminary, and then it got altered near the end because COVID hit and it was shut down. So
Okay.
there was money left in that article
Okay.
that we had.
Was that done by Quinn or?
No, Weston Sampson.
Okay, Weston. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, they've been on board right from the
Mm.
beginning. Okay. Anything further? Any other questions for Heather
No,
on that piece?
Just
No?
wait to
So
see
we'll-
what comes further on that.
all
But
right.
it's progress,
It is.
done
Yeah.
the least.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like I said, I think it's good news, and it's always good to define the walls, right? All right, so next on the agenda is to approve the FY24 trash fee.
Yes. So
Yeah, go
Carol
ahead.
did point out to me, sorry, Carol, I did actually try to email you back, but your email disappeared from my entire Outlook find. I couldn't find it. But anyway, so Carol had let me know, and she was right, I double checked, that we're currently at $22. So what you see here, just so everyone's on the same page, so this is the trash-free breakdown. So FY24 estimated expenses, we expect to expend $409,506. And keep in mind, that's kind of a conservative number, right? Like, that's probably a little higher than what we may need, hopefully. Hopefully, it's not too low. Based on the current numbers of the contract we have with Pellegrino, also our guesses for Wheelabrator, and those various numbers there. The households we have is about 1,580. I was able to get a hold of Tara last week to figure out what our collection rate was. We don't have perfect answers on this because they don't have a track of, I bill $110, I get back $110. They have this month, I sent out $110 worth of bills, and at the end of the month, I collected X number of dollars. But sometimes those dollars are from that $110 billed, and sometimes it could be from several months past.
Right.
So I can't, with any certainty say what the percentage is that we're collecting. I'm just trying to see the email, see if I can find it here, where she did respond to me on that, but I'll keep taking a look here. Okay, there we go. So to talk about 90 days, that was what they usually go to. Let me see down here. Oh, here it is. Sorry, I had to pull that up. So current trash collection rates, they vary. Oh, there we go. Okay. So sometimes you get 100%, sometimes it's 95, and like right now in June, as of what we build out, we're at 55%.
Right.
So it varies depending on the month and also how far back it goes. And like I said, I don't have specifics. That being said, Cheryl and I had sat down and we had gone over the numbers. So we played out, 21, 22, which is where we're currently at, 23 and 24, what the monthly billing is. If you figure there's 1,580 households times that dollar amount, that's how much we bill on a monthly basis. Annual bill times 12 months. So you can see there what the amount we would collect. The next thing, percentage collection. So that top line is 100%. So if we collected every single thing we billed, that's where those numbers would be. So under $22 a month, if we collected everything we set out to bill, we would collect approximately $417,000, which is more money than what we need at 409. If we only collected 95%, then we would only collect $396,000, which would put us shy by about $14,000. If you look at $23, if we collected 95%, that would put us at $414,000, which would put us a couple $1,000, $5,000 over what we're required or what we need to actually have in the coffers. Oh. I didn't move the mouse fast enough, sorry. So it's up to the board. I know Cheryl and I originally, we had talked about doing a dollar increase. I get that I also posted on this from 21 to 22, so if the board wanted, we could repost this another, for the next meeting to change it to 22 to 23, or we could try the 22 and see how close we come. Remembering that this currently is not an enterprise fund, right? So if we go over it, it rolls to the general fund. If we go under it, then the general fund has to cover the deficit.
So, as of April 30th, we've collected 346,977. So that leaves 2 more months left. So if you divide that by 10 and times by 12, you should get 416.
What was the number? Oh, you already did the math.
346,977.
But again, the question becomes, how much of that, like, again, that could include money that was owed for the
Yeah,
prior year.
and it works.
So, I know I'd mentioned this previously, and I've talked to Cheryl about this as well, and Julie and I have talked about this, I think, of looking at the possibility of considering doing this as an enterprise fund in the future. Because that way it will level out your actual fees, right? So that if costs go up 1 year and you have extra money in retained earnings, you can balance it out so people don't have to take a hit on the increase of the fee. It also gives them, or whoever's overseeing the enterprise fund, the ability to do beneficial programs like a leaf recycling program, or, you know, another hazardous waste day, whatever it may be, to give back to those programs. So just food for thought.
So I'm okay, I'm not married to the numbers that are on the agenda. So if anybody wanted to make a motion otherwise, I would entertain it. Or if you'd like to keep it at the 22 for now and see how we, excuse me, how we make out, I'm fine with that as well.
Would it be unfeasible to ask Mark from the finance board what he thinks of the whole situation?
You can certainly ask Mark.
Do you have a thought on this?
Yeah, the more revenue, the better.
But you can't collect more trash fees than what you've got as a charge. It's not a money-making thing, it's covering the trash fees and the costs.
Right.
I'm not opposed to doing 23 as long as it's not going to be every year. Another one. And I don't want to go any higher than 23 because we went up a couple of years ago from 1950, I believe, to
We went
22.
a long time with no increase at
Yes, it
all, a
was
very
for-
long time.
yes.
And then all of a sudden, we had to start increasing it. And it was, you know, and granted, it was through COVID, costs were going up, diesel was through the roof.
Recycling costs have gone up.
Went crazy. So things happened, so we had to increase the trash fee. I don't love, like you said, continuing to increase it stepwise like this, but
I'd like to revisit it and make sure that we're only collecting enough for the cost of trash. So that people that don't pay a trash fee,
I'd kind of like to push it, explore the enterprise idea so that we can kind of compartmentalize it and sort of roll the dice, I guess, and stay at the 22 right now.
well, we do, I mean, it's down as a separate item for local revenue, so we do see it.
Yeah, but we don't necessarily have any buffer.
But for what?
Well, if for whatever reason diesel spikes and Pellegrino comes back and hits us with a surcharge, right?
yep.
Like, we don't have a way to deal with that. If we had an enterprise, then we would have a way to deal with that.
Potentially you'd have
Kind of
the
like
retained earnings to
capital
pull
and,
from.
you know, capital improvement committee or whatever for,
And do we know for a fact you can do an enterprise for trash?
That's a-
You can.
I'll obviously double check, because what we would do is, let's say hypothetically, we end up with a special town meeting this year for something like a road acceptance. or something, that would be a good time to put it on, right? So it would be well in advance of budget season. It would have to get approved, whatever levels, and then it would be ready to go before budget, so you could just remove it for next fiscal. If it,
Doesn't have to go to an election.
I don't think it has to go to an election, it just has to be approved at town meeting, as far as I know. I mean, I'm happy to double check, I don't,
I think before you start exploring it, we need to know if it can be done.
I would
And
like
but
to
I think-
explore.
Yeah,
The
but I think it's the
options
treasurer
here.
and the accountant that you should involve.
already had, I've had those conversations with them, so.
All right, so the question currently on the table, so she'll look into the enterprise situation a little bit more, but the question currently on the table is whether we keep it at $22 or move it up to $23. Our collections currently look good, assuming that they continue the way that they're going. However, there is always some concern if you want to make sure that we get enough to cover it in the event we don't collect 100%.
So let's visit it at next meeting,
Okay.
once others done research on
And
it.
that'll give us a little bit more time
Yeah.
in collection as well.
Julia, I was asked a comment a minute ago, if I could just add to that. I think if you did a study or a survey, you'd find that the general consensus is the service is outstanding.
Oh, absolutely.
Fuel costs have gone up, labor costs have gone up, and I think the general populace would rather see you go from 22 to 23 as opposed to doing nothing for 5 years and jumping to 32.
Right?
So I think small incremental increases, I think, would be well received. If the service wasn't there, then it'd be a different story, but it's outstanding service. And frankly, a bargain to some
It
extent.
is.
All
I
right.
It's
agree.
At the price.
No question.
Yep.
They do a great job.
But I think the only reason it stayed the same is for the reason what we mentioned, that we're covering the costs of the service.
Right.
And there's been a lot of change, you know, because you're on the Board of Health.
Right.
There's been a lot of change in trash collection and recycling.
Yep. Yep. And it's outside of our control. It is what it is. But honestly, the trash fee hasn't gone up that significantly, considering you're paying another $6 maybe,
It's still
At
better
most.
than having a private contractor.
way better, right? Because what are people paying monthly for a private contractor?
$60+ a
Yeah,
month.
75, I think.
And
in
if
a
they've
lot
got
of
a
places.
complaint, they've got the town to deal with it rather
Right.
than directly to
Yep.
an answering machine.
So, we have a lot of benefits from this.
I'll make a motion to approve from 22 to 23.
Okay. Is there a second?
I thought we were going to wait. I thought you wanted to wait. No?
I think we still need to revisit it and look at the enterprise zone, but if we can make that small gradual move now, it might not be so painful later.
It's really not going to hurt. It's it's $1 additional for your trash fee. It's going to help ensure that we cover the service.
And it's what, 1,580 households, so we're talking about $1,580.
Okay, I'll second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So Julia, just to follow up, so Division of Local Services issued a document on enterprise funds in January 2020. First two sentences, I think, give us our answers. Increasingly, communities are establishing enterprise funds for the business-type services. Example, water, sewer, trash disposals, number 3. And then the second sentence, community adopts an enterprise fund by a vote of town meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
I do think in terms of trash service, a lot of towns might be on an enterprise for that because they're actually providing the service, not hiring. But, in which case it makes even more sense to do it. But just seeing it in black and white is helpful.
Yeah, because there's different types of trash service. It could be the pay-as-you-go, pay-as-you-throw.
Yep.
And next year's going to be a tough enough year. I don't want to lump something else on top.
So do it now instead of that. All right.
Thank you, Mark.
Yes, thank you, Mark. So next is to approve the select board meeting calendar for FY '24. You have the calendar in front of you. I don't think there was any dates that I had an issue with. I'm just trying to get to it, bear with me.
There's a date after Christmas on the 26th. I don't know
Yeah,
if
the
you guys
26th is tough, right?
want to do that one.
Can't we do,
I think the August 14th might be a challenge for me.
Okay. You know, we usually just do the one meeting in July, one meeting in August during the summertime.
Unless I can do it by Zoom, but I'm pretty sure that's the week we're on vacation.
Yeah, vacations always get in the way. I'm on vacation the last week of July and the first week in August.
so about the 21st?
So you want to try August 21st?
It's okay with me.
I don't have my
Okay.
calendar in front of me, but that sounds like I'm okay.
Well, 14th is that week, so it's just the following week. Oh, yeah, don't have you, yeah.
August 21st. Yeah, that should be fine.
If not, we can change it.
Yeah. But for now, we'll switch the 14th to the 21st in August. And then how about that one after Christmas
December 26th.
on the 26th?
Could we do the, let me have a look, 18th?
My crystal ball doesn't go that far, so.
I know,
I know it's tough, yeah. I mean, the 8th, we can do the 18th.
Yeah.
It'll give us 2 meetings in a row, but at least,
but Christmas week it's generally quiet, we would hope.
yeah.
And the next one's early January, January 8th.
January 8th, yeah. Yep, so you're not going too long without,
No,
it's fine with me.
I'm okay with that.
I'm looking at it sideways on my screen in case anybody's wondering. All right. So that's that. Okay, the next item is a letter to the state in support of the Wachusett Regional School District to reinstate the accelerated repair program. Heather, do you want to just give us a brief background?
I'll do my best. So we had received correspondence from the school district back in early May. I had followed up with Randy over at the school district to see, you know, how urgent and if it was still needed because it had been a while ago. And she said, about 4 weeks later, yes, we could still use this, please. So my understanding of it is, so MSBA does the school loans for any of the roof repairs and other things. They have a program that's actually called the Accelerated Repair Program that I think went on hiatus during COVID. And they're asking for it to come back so that there's additional access to funding sources.
So no heavy lifting here. I just need a motion to go ahead and sign this and send it off.
So moved.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Next up is liaison assignments for FY '24, and then we will get back to annual appointments. So you have the liaison assignments as they currently stand. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to change? As we're all scrolling to get to it. There we
Yeah.
go.
That's the problem with the iPad. It's like,
So you can see what's highlighted in green is appointed items, and then what's highlighted in yellow are elected items, elected boards and whatnot. Which I think it's actually fairly well balanced from what I can see. But does anybody feel like they would like a change, need a change? I'm open to whatever. Leave it the same, it's fine with me.
Can we put this on for next meeting so I can
Yeah,
think about it?
you want to think about it some more?
Mm.
That is fine with me. So we'll pass over this for now.
didn't the EDC change?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
What do you mean change?
I thought you, no? Okay. All right, yeah, so let's move this to the next meeting.
Don't
Okay.
Don't give any more.
All right. I am happy with it the way it is, but if anybody would like a change, I'm more than happy to entertain that too. So just,
I am too, but
just we'll review it again.
Out of respect for Carol, I'll do that.
Thank you.
Yep, very nice. All right, so annual appointments we took out of the consent agenda and moved it to now, which I agreed with. I would have asked for the same if Carol had not asked for it beforehand. But Carol, I will yield the floor to you. You can see these are our sort of our annual reappointments. The items in red are the ones that need to be reappointed because their term is ending. And we've contacted everybody to be sure that they want to be reappointed, so we're good there. There is one, we can go committee by committee if you'd like.
No, I just got a couple of comments.
Okay.
First being, I'll come to that, whichever's the first, I think it's, so, the American Rescue Plan Act Committee.
Yep.
We disbanded that.
We did, so they can come right off of there. ARPA.
Yep, the ARPA, yeah.
The Capital Committee, there's a lot of 24s. There's
It's like 2/3 of the whole committee.
all 24. That should really be spaced out a bit, so that, can't do that. I'm sure at one time it probably was, only because, you know, you're going to have everybody
Yep.
potentially come up, but they are, it is what it is. And then I can't see, the audit liaison for Wachusett, that's not our appointment. I was in the impression the Wachusett Audit Advisory Board that Mark's on, that's appointed by Wachusett, not by us.
No, I think we appointed him.
He's on the finance. How could we appoint him if he's on the finance? No, it's we can put names forward, but we don't appoint.
Oh, that might be what it was. We may have
Mark,
made the
Got any
suggestion.
comments on that?
Yeah.
No, I believe I'm appointed by the Rochester Regional School Committee.
Yep, okay, so we can take that off as well.
That's all I had.
Yep.
On the town council, Julia?
Yeah.
It says Peter Dawson, and probably should just say American O'Connell.
That was one of the questions I had,
Yep.
to change it to Merrick O'Connell because we use a couple of different attorneys over there.
And we should have that there for Labor Council too, so town council / labor.
Okay, and you'd like to make that change? That's fine with me. I had a question. Did you talk to Jim Robert to see, is he still interested in being local superintendent of insect pest control?
That's fine, because he never gets
Okay.
a very minimal.
Because sometimes when people decide that they're done with everything, and, okay. What else did I have? There's a couple of places where we have to reappoint Heather, and where her contract is still under negotiation. I'm not sure if you wanted to just hold off on those, or if you want to go ahead and appoint, but I'm afraid where she doesn't have the contract inked yet, that we'd be sort of putting the cart before
Yep.
the horse.
It's fine. There's more than a couple.
And was there anything else that I saw? I think that's all of my notes. Kirk, did you have any notes?
I did
Anything you
not. I
wanted
think
to-
you guys covered them all.
Okay. And again, these are reappointments. New appointments we typically handle separately. So that's something that we can discuss at a future agenda for vacant positions. So we do have vacancies in the Board of Appeals. We have 3 vacancies. Conservation has a vacancy. Capital has a vacancy. Cable Committee has a vacancy. Scenic Byway Committee has a vacancy. Town Buildings Needs Study Committee has 2 vacancies. Do we still need that? I know we've talked about this before.
It's not active, I don't think, but
They haven't met in at least a year.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that's something that we need to keep on here.
I'd keep it on there only in case they
Yeah.
decide to push forward with any grants or anything like that.
Okay.
I agree.
But I don't think we need to worry about anything else. I mean, obviously, if somebody comes forward and wants to join, then
Yep.
might be infuse some.
And then we also have a vacancy on the EDC, which is going to be coming up on the agenda as well. Let me just,
I think that's for the planning board seat.
And their meeting tonight, are they discussing it tonight?
Planning board?
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't
Or we didn't reach
recall
out?
to reach out to Neil.
Okay.
okay, so, I gotta get back to it now. Here we go. All right. So happy to, we can certainly review these appointments and handle them in sort of a piecemeal fashion tonight. We do have one more meeting before July 1st, in which we could right, with the 26th, I think, June 26th. And we could potentially make the appointments on June 26th, once we clear up a
Kinda
couple of
clean
these
up the
little
list.
things.
Yeah.
That would be fine with me too, although that agenda seems to be getting a lot of items put onto it from tonight.
It should be quick though next time.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to push to the 26th
Okay.
on this, just so we can clean it up and be clear and concise and
Sounds good.
all be on the same page.
So we got an email today that someone was interested in the capital.
Yes.
Nice.
Do you want to add that to the list now, or I know we're not acting on it now, but do you want to mention that, or
Well, what I would like to do is I'd like to see us put together something similar to what we have for when a job is posted, so that there is a specified timeline that it is
There is
open for.
14 days.
14 days. So
No.
there is already.
no? That's we always did that, Donna. Correct? We've always done that.
Oh, okay. But I'd also like to see us have a specific way that we advertise these positions that gets done consistently every time. And I think that we can update the way that we do that as well, because we have some new opportunity available to us with the electronic signs and whatnot. So what I'd like to see us do is put in place a policy for open positions, how they get advertised, how long they stay open for, just to make sure that the entire community has access to the information before we go ahead and appoint. It may not change anything. We may end up putting the same person in place, which is totally okay, but I want to make sure, even though we don't tend to have people knocking down the door for these positions, I don't want to see us get complacent and say that, you know, the first person who steps up to the plate the day after the position is opened ends up being the one to get it, you know, and it ends up being by virtue of the fact that they had advance notice of the opening.
And that's not how it's been in the past, I can
Yeah.
assure you. In the past, it's always been 14 days posted in Town Hall and on the website.
Yeah.
But like you say, now we've got a lot more.
But now that
available.
we've
Right.
updated the website, is there a way to have a page just for open committee positions? So that it's as easy as we can possibly make it for people who do want to get involved to get in touch with us,
Right.
which I don't see that on our.
Well, we used to have descriptions of when there was an opening.
Yep.
Descriptions of
Yeah, but
what
it's
that
like,
position.
you look at that and I'm new in town and I'm like, okay.
No, but there was a. I'm looking for it. See.
See, on the very top there, open board/committee positions. That's where you are. Yep. So it's there.
So,
Doesn't do the descriptions, like if,
so
to Kirk's
is
point.
there a
where
way
you-
if somebody clicks on that, then we can get their cell phone number and send them like 19 texts a day and 24 emails? Like spam them?
Well, usually when anybody jumps in, we make sure.
I'm
I know what you're saying.
kidding, but it's like, it's like pulling teeth to get people to help.
Oh, it is. It is. But, but I don't, part of me wonders how much people even understand, like how much they hear and are exposed to in terms of these openings are available. And it's incumbent upon us to really push that information out and make sure.
So maybe we use the electronic signs.
I would be totally okay with
Please
that.
go to
Yeah.
Paxton, website and volunteer for committee today.
Several open committee
Like,
positions.
We
Yep.
need a commercial writer, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's several open positions, so I would definitely like to see that happen.
Yeah, there's a
Mark,
finance opening
you
there.
have something to say?
Could I be recognized on this, this issue that you're proposing?
Yep.
I think what you are proposing is a great idea. I think it should be posted, whether it's 30 days or 14 days. But I wouldn't want it to be done retroactively. There's a CIPC position that's vacant, that a person applied for that back in May 11th of this year. And there was a series of, what do we do? Do we go to the town administrator, to the town clerk? And we were advised that we submit a letter of request to the Board of the Select Board. That was all done within about a week. I think we first started the consideration for appointment on May 11th, and then the email or the letter was finally submitted on May 16th. We've been waiting for that appointment to be opined on, either favorably or otherwise. But I think now to start that 14-day wait period, when there's already been somebody in the queue waiting for appointment, I think it should be grandfathered. I think Carol raised the point a minute ago that we want to talk about that appointment now or on June 26th, which we're okay with either of those dates. But I wouldn't want now to have a new policy that you need to adhere to a 14-day waiting period and have somebody else jump ahead of somebody who thought he was doing the right thing and was advised by a lot of people to do the things that he did, and has been waiting patiently for appointment and now risks not being appointed because of the new policy.
The best situation we could ever hope for would be to have more than one person step up and have that opportunity to have them come before us and then choose. That honestly is the best thing I could ever hope for.
Totally agree, but I think
Yeah.
that should be going
Develop
forward, not
alternates.
retroactive. That's my point.
So I think we're lacking transparency if we go ahead and appoint, like I said, the person who stepped up first, rather than let the information flow out to the community first and let anybody who wants to step up. I think the person who posted for that first posted so soon after the resignation of the prior party, by virtue of the fact that he had advance notice of that resignation that the community didn't have. So it's not fair to the rest of the community to not have the opportunity simply because they didn't jump the gun first.
Well, if I can just add
And like I said, it's not like people are generally beating down the
Yeah,
door
they're
for
not.
this, and it's entirely possible that it may end up the exact same way anyways, which
Yep.
is totally fine, is no slight at all against the person who put in for it. I just want to make sure that we're giving the entire community the same opportunity.
But just let me share with you what happened. That person asked whether or not he could come on the committee when there were no vacancies, and he was informed of that. So he showed interest before there was a vacancy.
Yep.
And then when a vacancy opened, I felt an obligation to inform him that now there is a vacancy if you're
Yep.
still interested, and he responded quickly.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. And like I
But
said,
I couldn't tell the entire populace of the
Of
town
course
of
you can't.
Paxton that vacancy has now become open.
Well,
I
Right.
think
But
we
what
did it
if-
according to Hoyle. I think your plan is a good one, but I don't agree that it should be applied retroactively.
So what if we develop
We've
a
always
program so that we can say this position's open, and please submit your request to be on these boards, committees, what have you, by X date,
Yeah.
14 days, 30 days.
right.
And we splash it out everywhere we can
Yep.
so that we have everyone who has interest
Yep.
there, and we can just make a decision based upon that.
Absolutely.
I mean, that seems about the most transparent way and fair way to go about it.
I agree. Yep.
Your thoughts, Mark?
So if somebody
Going
was,
forward, yes.
Yes, going forward, we don't have, I don't know that we have, actually have a
Totally agree, going forward.
policy in place right now.
so as a vacancy, so we act on resignations. So
Right.
as someone resigns, that's, tells us there's an opening.
Yep.
Then that should,
So
the
then we
next
need to
day.
post.
Yes, the next day.
And come up with the guidelines for how we want that posting, how long,
Yep.
what the considerations are.
Right.
Job description, blah, 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 put it on the website.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to do. Yeah, set
Yeah.
that up. And then, I don't see any reason why we should change, there's nothing pending right now why we should do it differently or grandfather anybody or anything to that
Until we
that
can
extent.
adopt a procedure.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
the
Yep.
email that we received today was the first time I've seen that. And Kirk's just said to me what we're talking about.
Yeah, I
Hadn't
didn't,
seen
I
it.
hadn't seen that email,
So,
so,
because it came later on today.
I thought the email chain was, thread was communicated with everybody today when we knew that this was on the docket for this evening, and we were wondering what's up, what.
it may be in my email box, but by the time I got home from work, took a shower, ate
Okay.
dinner, and
No,
got
no,
here.
no, that's, we're all busy,
5:39.
totally
It
understand.
could very well be that I'm 8 hours behind right now.
That happens. Okay. So that, I think, is fine. If, Heather, do you mind putting together a document that we can then review and make any changes, or?
Yep.
That way we
Put
just.
it on my list.
As far as the procedure for
Yeah.
when
In
there's a
between time, can we
resignation.
post it tomorrow? I think Donna's probably got
It's,
a piece of paper ready with capital.
it is,
letters on it.
I mean, it is posted on the website, as you saw from Kirk, but I don't think we have a description.
So if it's posted, then that,
We don't have a description that says, join the CIPC. This is an
This is what
amazing
you do."
opportunity to
Yeah.
work with Mark.
Can we
Right.
do banners on our website?
I mean, flashing.
You want me to do a 911
Yeah,
banner on the
open it.
top? Attention, alert, CIPC vacancy now available.
Well, we should put together, we should make sure we utilize all the avenues that are available to us for advertising.
Closing in 13 days, 55 minutes.
But I have no problem with starting the process now, and
Yeah,
then,
absolutely.
if we can put it out everywhere that we anticipate putting it on the policy, it just gives us a little bit of a jump start so that CIPC isn't waiting so long to get that position filled.
Put it on Facebook, put it anywhere.
Yeah, it should go out on social media, it should go out to the landmark, it should, all of these,
And maybe that's where we've been remiss in filling some of these boards, is
well,
we're
I
just
think
not-
We used
it
to use the
has been.
landmark.
It has gone, yeah.
We used to have the
Carol's
landmark.
right. It has gone out
I haven't looked
that,
at the landmark.
that way, but
Don't do it anymore.
it would be nice to have it laid out so that it's done the same way every time.
Yep, absolutely. And so,
Okay. All right, so we handled liaison assignments, we handled annual appointments. All right, old business, review the membership guidelines for the Economic Development Committee. How many meetings have they had now?
Believe they've actually physically been able to meet 2 or 3 times. I've lost track. They have had over 3 times where they weren't able to meet because they didn't have a quorum. The last few times, they haven't been able to meet because they haven't had a quorum. I think I've been present at, I think it's been 3 meetings in person that they've actually physically been able to have. They've tried in person, they've tried Zoom, they've tried hybrid. They're just having trouble getting people to commit. We did a survey a number of months ago to figure out what days of the week where people were most available. There was one who was only available on one particular day, so they adjusted their meetings for that person. Then that person didn't come for a few of the meetings. So I did get a message right before our meeting started, about 6:45, from the chair Savas to let me know they weren't able to meet again this evening because they didn't have a quorum. I know in talking with a bunch of the members, people are getting just completely deflated, right? They put aside time, they put it on the calendar, they plan to attend, and then they go and
Right.
there's no meeting and they've wasted their time. So I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know if the answer is try again. I don't know if the answer is look at the structure. We currently have, so everyone has in front of them, and it's up here as well. The current membership is 7 voting and 2 non-voting members, right? So there's the TA and the FinCom member. FinCom member goes every time, and, you know, when their meeting is not the same time as our meeting, I usually go. So, you know, you usually have bodies there. The planning board member is the one who resigned from the committee, and that was one of the voting members, which brings you down to 6, but you still have to have 4 people to make it work.
Yep.
You have 4 town business owners and 2 residents. So I don't know if the answer is make the committee smaller or make the committee larger. I don't think I have the right answer, but I know there's concerns because you're going to lose the people who are feeling engaged if we haven't
Right.
already lost them because they're just
Right.
frustrated.
What if, now that we have the new finance committee bylaw, what if we moved the finance committee member to be a voting member on the committee?
As long, I mean, we could with the understanding that for some reason in the event that, you know, A, wouldn't be consistent with the current bylaw that's in effect, right? Because the new one doesn't become effective until the
Not
AG's
until-
office approves it.
AG.
And what happens for whatever reason, I don't anticipate it, but if the AG's office comes back and says no,
Yeah,
then you have to go backwards.
we're
and then-
premature there.
So,
I mean, I don't think they're gonna make any such significant votes that someone's gonna challenge the vote
Still.
because of the person who
I don't want to set a
voted.
precedent that we're, we should do it
but
right.
on the zoning board, we always had voting members and alternates, and in the event that they couldn't have a quorum, then an alternate could vote. So perhaps we restructure it a bit so that the ex officio or call them alternates, whatever, could fill the board in the event that folks couldn't make it or people couldn't make the meeting. Because we really need to figure out how to make this work.
Right,
This
I
is-
agree.
This is really important.
And it's really, I can only imagine the people who've been going to every meeting, how frustrated they must be.
And my apologies to the folks on the board for your frustration. Thank you for hanging in there.
Yeah.
This is something that we just have to all work together and figure it out. And maybe it's something that we could take to the board and say, hey, how do you think that this would work best?
We don't have there's no bylaw that drives this committee, so there is nothing that says, if you miss 5 meetings, then you're gonna be replaced, similar to like what we have with finance. But we certainly could reach out to EDC and see if there's, particular members of the committee that have been showing up for every meeting, and
I would like to invite them just to have a conversation.
just the chair, because quorums don't happen.
No, invite the whole EDC committee to come in and let's have a conversation. What's working, what's not working, and then let's figure it out. If we have to rearrange or restructure or whatever it takes, it's important enough. I think it's worth the time to do that. I do. It's up to you guys, but
For the good or for the bad, the other thing is, just so you know, the deliverables you gave the committee were actually due by June 30th. So I believe your initial appointments were till June 30th. So if you restructured the organization of the committee or whatever for July, that would be consistent with how you originally structured this, understanding that none of these deliverables, other than a fraction of them, were able to happen because of the
yeah,
lack of quorum.
right.
so it looks like the June 26th meeting is filling up.
Yeah. We'll be in the hot seats on June 26th.
I'm fine with that. Whatever. Bring it.
Well, that's fine.
Julie, Rick, you raise a good point. The the Finance Committee bylaws, which were approved at annual town meeting, are now in front of the Attorney General's office. Correctly or incorrectly or not, we're assuming that once they're blessed by the Attorney General's office, that would allow the FinCom member on EDC to become a voting member.
I think it would need to then come, after it clears the AG's office, it would need to then come to us to make that approval. But
Yeah.
I anticipate that there's no reason that we wouldn't.
Yeah, and if we needed to come to you to make that recommendation, we'll be prepared to do that.
Yeah.
If that Finance Committee member is a voting member, I think you'll see a change in leadership. don't want to pass judgment on what has occurred or not occurred, but this is really a function of leadership. And I think if the finance committee member who's exuberant about his membership were in a leadership role as opposed to a non-voting kind of standby role, I think you'll see a whole different situation. Doesn't mean that he needs to be the chairman, but if he were one of the officers, I think that would be a driving force that would change the dynamic of this. But it's got to start with the Attorney General approving the bylaws and then the Select Board, which is part of the provision that you need to opine on letting that happen, and
Right.
then we'd be happy to come before you to lobby you to allow that to happen. I think that would be a big step to changing the dynamic. Because even though there's frustration, there's enough strength there that wants to make it work as well. And I think we got to capitalize on the factor of wanting to make it work as opposed to waving the white flag and surrendering and not doing
I think we all
anything.
realize it's critical, and it's just how do we move the ball forward?
Right.
I mean,
Yep.
I can't speak for you guys, but that's where I'm coming from.
It's an important committee.
It is, I agree. So.
Is it the same people each time that can't make the meeting?
That's the question we
And
need to ask.
And
of
if it
EDC.
is, maybe we should reach out, Heather could reach out to those people and say, if it's not something you can attend, can you please send your resignation in or tell us not to reappoint you?
Right.
So that we can get moving. Don't want to throw anybody off there if they want to stay on there, but if they can't commit to it, then I'm not saying one person. I don't know who's attending, who isn't.
Right.
I'm just thinking, because that seems to be the problem, not being able to get people to meet.
Right, right,
So,
yep. It's fine with me. So maybe we'll have some changes even before, that filter to us even before the next meeting, so it'll just make that a little bit easier on the appointment end of things.
Are we anticipating a time for the AG to review and,
It's usually at least 3 months.
Yeah, it's a fairly lengthy.
so we're just gonna have to, we're gonna have to go
We
on
gotta do
faith.
something in the meantime,
We're gonna have to go on faith,
yeah.
but it's gonna be approved, and if not, we'll have to back up the train.
it
But
don't usually take that long.
It's too important.
So we can look at that. If we do move the finance committee member to a voting position, we probably need to look at the other positions to keep that odd number. So, we can certainly look at how that pans out, but there's 4 business members, and if we reduce that to 3 local business members, they'd still have a majority. Because I do think that's important, that this committee is essentially driving business, so it's important to have that opinion. However, I think that, if you had to take away from a spot, that would be the place to take away from. So, that is EDC, so that's something we can,
And if we haven't already done so, we need to reach out to the planning board and tell them that they need to put somebody forward.
yeah, for their ex officio seat.
Will do.
All right. It is 7:58. We are just a little bit behind, but not bad. So the next 2 items on the list are for executive session. We will be entering in, I'm
What
sorry.
happened to my administrator's report?
Oh,
It got cut?
I skipped over 5, 6, 7, and 8. So, select board correspondence? I have none. Public comment? Sorry, Mark, I didn't mean to
Nope.
take
I
away.
made 'em. Thank you for recognizing me during the meeting. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Town administrator's report. Sorry, Heather, go ahead.
Sure. So the first one under board committees and openings, they do have finance committee. Finance committee has a few openings, an excellent role for a town resident who's interested in learning more about the municipal finance process. Busy season for individuals in this role is usually the spring months leading up to town meeting. These positions are appointed by the moderator. See the town's website for more information. You can also go to the town's website for some of the other items or some of the other committees that are open. Community happenings, Historical Commission, June 24th, 7 p.m. They'll be hosting the History at Play, Revolution of Her Own Story of Deborah Sampson at the Senior Center. Paxton Days and Summer Jam, if you do not have it on your calendar, please add it. It is this weekend on Saturday, June 17th, from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's going to be amazing. Donna keeps getting more and more vendors. She has done a lot of work. She's very excited. Food trucks, other vendors, music, food, games. Make sure you check that out. Summer Music Series is going to be starting up later in July. Departmental updates. So IT team this past couple weeks has had a couple of potential scams that have come up on the computer. That's been like the big thing, where people will be on a browser and all of a sudden it will flash bells and whistles yelling at you. So we worked with Rapidu Consulting, figure out what we need to do, cleared cookies, sent messages to everyone to hopefully alleviate any terror that initially was the onset of, the computer making all kinds of noise. We also are in the process of doing our quote for services for the next year, because as you know, anything between 10 and 50,000, we have to solicit bids or quotes rather from at least 3 vendors with the written scope of services. So we got that out last week to our current vendor as well as a couple other vendors to get some variety, because again, we have to comply and get at least 3. We might be changing that up a little bit on how we currently do that, but I will work with Sean tomorrow, and once we get that, we'll put that back before this board for appointment of that. I don't know where procurement stuff lines up. We might end up having to request to see if we can do like a quick Zoom meeting for a few of the small contract appointments, but we will see. Finances, so the new things to add here, really it's just one, community one-stop. So DPW worked with Tata and Howard, who is our consultant who is working with us on West Street. They applied for the Mass Works grant amongst a variety of others. So nowadays, you don't just apply for one grant, you apply under the state's umbrella called Community One Stop. So you're applying for a zillion grants at the
I love
same
this.
time, and they'll give you whatever money they can hopefully find that matches your project if they can. We do not expect anything till the fall.
Okay.
How much have we requested?
You know what? I bet he had put the number, but I think the number was kind of a little bit all over the place because it was from each of the different things. So I think they say this is what we'd like, but each of them only, some of them say, well, I only give you 10,000. I'd give you up to 20,
Yeah.
So it's all piecemeal. I don't think it's any more as traditional as we did a $500,000 grant or a $2 million grant to Mass Works.
Okay. I think Travis sent an email. Did you see Travis's
Did you say
email?
number?
I'll forward it, Carol. He may not have
I've got
sent
it. I
everything.
just didn't know if you said a number.
I don't think it said a number, but I think it had a link to all of the.
Okay.
Yeah, it said, well, it just sent you a link of the Community One-Stop grants that you were applying for when you
Yeah.
applied. But
Yeah.
to my recollection, I don't remember seeing a number either.
Right, I don't see it.
Because again, I think it's, what are you looking for your project? And you apply to the 28 different possibilities as a
Yep.
whole, and they decide who can, will, or may give you money. Procurement, so the Tiverton Field lights, so that is due now on June 21st at 12 noon. We extended it out. We got that amendment, the second one out. We first amended the date earlier last week, and then we did the final amendment last Friday. Worked very closely with Jeff on that to make sure it hit all of the bells and whistles they were looking for. It had a little diagram and everything. So that is out. People have until this Friday to ask questions. There's always a possibility we issue another addendum depending on what the questions are. Again, I'm not a designer. Jeff's not a designer. We tried the best we can to anticipate what the questions are, use a format and structure, and use templates to get people the answers they're looking for. Paving contracts are due next Wednesday at noon. For those pieces, same thing as line painting. Those are out. IT services are due back Friday, June 16th. Sometimes I just randomly pick dates. Sometimes I have strategy for it, but I usually try to line it up before select board meetings when possible. And job openings, we did post the municipal custodian position. So if anyone in town knows of anyone who might be interested, whether they live in town or not in town, it's a hybrid between custodial services of just cleaning as well as light carpentry and kind of handiwork. So it is a nice position. I think we had it for 19 hours a week. And you'll get to see almost all of the municipal buildings right now, except for the library. DPW, you get a quick stint in the bathroom.
Or of Paxton.
Yes. So, and that is all I have on my report. There is one more grant I totally did not put in my report. I don't have all the details, but I am very proud. Pam applied for a grant for a sensory room for the library. So she was awarded $20,000 to upgrade an
Good.
area of the
Wow.
library.
It's awesome.
Whether it ends up, it's apparently something that kind of evolves over time, so she gets the funding for it, but she has to do a lot of outreach and work with families, with kids who are affected, and the school district and so forth, to kind of figure out what they're looking for and what they really have a need for, whether it's a room or specific programs or what it may be. So her initial project is for a space, but that might evolve as we go. But before the next meeting, I'll make sure I get more details to put it out there, because it is very exciting that she was able to apply for that and get that.
I'm glad that it involves that sort of feedback loop so that we make sure that it, whatever is there is supporting the needs of the people who might use it, as opposed to it going unused, you know? So that's great.
That's all I had.
That's all you had. I'm like, oh, all right. So that's the town administrator's report. So back to where we were before I jumped way ahead. We will be exiting our regular meeting in order to move into executive session for 2 items. Number 1, to discuss potential litigation concerning the Holden dispatch contract pursuant to Chapter 30A, Section 21-3. And 2, for contract negotiations for the town administrator pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21-3. So I will entertain a motion, and then we will have a roll call vote to move into executive session.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the public meeting to enter into executive session, only to leave executive session to adjourn the public meeting.
You're so close,
Resume.
with that.
I'm still missing sticky note.
So the motion is to move from regular session into executive session, returning to regular meeting only to adjourn. And is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So Kirk said aye, Carol said aye, and I say aye. That's your roll call.
Give me a whole pad of sticky notes.
We're going to have a brief recess before we start.
Sticky notes. Just cut it out. Stick it on you.